and culture, the Honourable Lisa Hanna has been much in the news recently. The Member of Parliament for South East St. Ann, who came in for a glowing report, had faced potential challenges from within her constituency, but subsequently has extended the olive branch to her challenges. This morning, we find out about her readiness for the pending elections, plus her recent visit to Germany. We say good morning to Lisa Hanna.
Morning.
No, you have never
Really? Hi, Lisa.
If not for my professionalism, I would be all over you this morning. Oh, Lisa! Yeah, but I have to remain professional, though. Let's begin by talking about what happened in your constituency recently and the conference that you had. We saw quite a number of people. In fact, the reports that we have received, over 3,000. What was that like for you?
That was my annual constituency conference. So every year, constitutionally by the party, we are mandated as members of parliament, particularly for recognized constituencies, which means that you have a certain number of representation of groups. And so we have our annual constituency conferences where we vote in at our private session a new executive and chair of that constituency executive. And so that was what that was on Sunday, and that was my conference. So I had both a private and a public session.
I suppose reports may vary because it is said that there was some tension. There were people there who were objecting to you, and there were people who were resistant.
What are you?
Conference.
Well, I don't recall that. I mean, what I know is that at my private session, there were about 115 delegates. And so I was unopposed as chairman, and my team as the executive was also unopposed. What I saw on television, because we certainly didn't see it at the public session, was that there were some persons who are elected representatives who decided to carry out another activity and clearly orchestrated. And essentially the executive of the party has said, look, they will have to face a disciplinary committee of the party.
Did that surprise you that there seemed to have been, as you said, an orchestrated entity?
This has been, and anybody who has been following the politics has seen that there has been some orchestrations for destabilization in Southeast St. Ann. So this wasn't new to me. This is something that has been going on for a while, and the party is aware of it. And so as the head of the constituency, and certainly as a member of parliament, I have been managing the process and dealing with it. So that's as much as I would say about it as well. I think the public is very, very clear, and certainly from where I stand in the constituency, the support is there not only from the delegates, but certainly from the community.
I'm going to make a statement, and I suppose you may respond to it as well. I believe that a large part of the problem is that people like yourself, Raymond Price, and to a lesser extent Damon Crawford, represents the renaissance of politics in Jamaica, and people are a little bit resistant because you're not seen as the pork barrel and the kind of handout kind of politicians, and people would object to that given our political culture.
Well, there's not only the three of us. I mean, when the party started to renew itself under the Prime Minister, she was very clear. We have over 10 members of parliament, and several of them are first-time MPs, and that stretches across Raymond, Hugo Buchanan, Damian Crawford, Arnaldo Brown, Dayton Campbell, Julian Robinson,
yes,
and I could go on. So there is a renaissance in the party. I mean, one of the things that I think we all have to realize is that we are in a political environment, and I've always said that politics is blood sport. I think one of the issues, though, is that people perhaps see me and don't realize that I'm not afraid of a challenge. And that I'm
lightweight.
And that I'm a lightweight. That is not something that really.
I saw that quote where you say
I don't get into obfuscation.
Yes, I saw that part where you say you're not easily intimidated or some such thing. But you've offered the olive branch. How has that gone with it?
Well, I've extended it. I've extended it for a number of times. But if you are a political historian, you would have realized that the same persons that you saw in the demonstration, quote unquote, are the same persons that in 2007 they were the same faces in the same environment in Southeast St. Anne doing the same thing. And if you do your research, you can go back and see it.
I want to ask you a question anyway, because Raymond Price came out recently to say that he's not getting the backing of certain members of the party.
Did he come out and say that?
I suspect.
Or did you imply that he said that?
Well, I think he said that anyway, because we played a bite with him, you know, and saying that he doesn't believe that there are members in the party who are not, you know, who are supporting some of his policies.
Well, I think you should have Raymond on the program to say it. Raymond is somebody that I certainly have gone through the political ranks with, and that I like and respect in a great deal, and all of us as young members of Parliament. And I particularly have an affinity for the first-time members of Parliament, because I was also a first-time member of Parliament, and you are thrown in to the deep end, and you either sink or you swim. And so what has to happen is, as an MP, I'm a region chair as well, in an elected position to manage not only my own constituency politically, but 5 others. You have to, one, have a formidable team around you to help deal with the organization, not only of the constituency, but of internal party matters. 2, you have to be able, especially as a young person, manage the resources, because it takes tremendous resources to maintain your political stability and organization. And also, 3, you really have to manage the constituency, not only your own supporters and workers, but you have to be magnanimous and also get out there and make yourself accepted that you are the member of Parliament for both parties.
One of the things about Jamaican politics, and most people will agree, is that it certainly on the political platform, there has to be a certain attitude that says you're not easily intimidated. Most of Jamaican politicians know that. It's part of the culture of what makes us us. And I've heard people who follow politics a lot closer than I say that it is not natural for Lisa Hanna to be that kind of no-nonsense, not afraid of you, defiant person. Is this something that you have had to take on since you've been in politics, or is this something that's natural to you but people just don't know that? They see a face, but they
see a face.
But they don't see that side.
I think they don't realize that certainly all my life I have had significant battles and challenges. And always I have been a strategist. So I think sometimes they misappropriate or misunderstand the fact that perhaps I was Miss World, which was 22 years ago, and that somehow that persona is belittled into believing that you are not a formidable opponent.
You're a pushover, soft.
No,
That's not
far
true.
from it. Far from it. So it's and in Southeast the first time around, I mean, I increased my percentage turnout in the last election. So this is not something that is easy, and I don't want anybody to think that becoming a politician is easy. And I think sometimes people look at me and say, well, if Lisa can do it, let's just jump in. It's not easy. And let me just tell you that straight. I mean, for the last, I would say, 7 months, 8 months, there has been a resilient, consistent fight to try and do the same thing, perhaps that others, the same, tried to do to others who were there before. So it's not easy.
The Gleaner cartoon this morning, I have to refer to it, where somebody was saying, good news for the JLP because of what appears to be internal fighting in your constituency. There you go.
Ah.
Your take on that?
Well,
you are in the ring.
Well, I have no comment on that, really.
Got to be a bit man. Good news.
I want to ask you 2 questions before we go to your visit to Germany recently. How ready are you now for the elections?
I'm very ready. I think you all saw that on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
My team
ready.
is completely ready.
All right, wonderful. And the other question is, you think that you have the total
That is
backing?
if an election is called.
Yeah.
Notice you all are plugging an election.
Can you tell us anything about that? All right.
No, that is above my pay
Probably
scale.
not. And all right, one final question.
Sure.
It's not the very first time that we are hearing about it, that you're the heir apparent.
No, I'm not the heir apparent. I would not want to be categorized in that way. What are you referring
Well,
to?
in fact, the last election, soon after your debate, people started that narrative. I'm sure you heard it.
That is surprising to me. I mean, I heard something on the radio yesterday, and I won't refer to it because obviously of where we are, but that is a complete surprise, obviously, to me, for a number of reasons. And, I really rarely get my head up to breathe. I really keep my head down and do a lot of work.
I suspect that is so because of a poll that was commissioned recently, and it said that you're one of the hardest working MPs. All right, final question. Germany.
Yes, didn't get my luggage.
They stole the minister's luggage.
No, I got it the day before I was leaving.
Okay.
So it was, it was one of those experiences. But I digress. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, tell me about the Jonker Mountain and the, the proposed
Right.
heritage sites.
Well, one of the things when I became minister was I wanted to ensure that Jamaica had its place etched in history for having a World Heritage Site because we had none. Cuba had several, Barbados has, St. Lucia has. And one of the things that we actually needed in terms of our own competitiveness globally was to have some of these things that could be measured. And when you think about Jamaican culture and our Jamaicanness and our brand, we are perceived as being perhaps the best culture in the world, and I believe we are. But we needed some of these things to anchor us, and so we set out to ensure that we got one. Now, there was some work that was done during 10 years, even before I became minister.
Yes,
On the Blue and Jonker Mountains by JCDT and some other persons, and it didn't make it through. They put it up for nomination and it didn't go through. It was deferred for technical reasons, for other reasons. So when I became minister in 2012, I picked it back up and we looked at it. Now, one of the things that was very, very clear when I looked at the whole procedure is that we really didn't know who the players were. We didn't know how to get ourselves etched internationally into the movers and shakers of international World Heritage, particularly within UNESCO. So the first set of business was to find out who those players were and to also have a degree of recognition which would allow people to start thinking about Jamaica. So I put ourselves up for election to the World Heritage Committee, which is a 21-member committee who votes to get World Heritage sites. And we got elected in 2013, so we're the only small island that sits on that Heritage Committee. So we also choose World Heritage sites. Yeah. And so that recognition started to build, and then we were now in a position to ask who the technical persons were. What technically did we need to do? Where did we go wrong? Yeah. And so for the last 2 years, we upped our game in terms of ensuring that we drilled down the technical aspects of the dossier, because a dossier is like an encyclopedia. Yeah. And then we submitted it, it was passed. Then we went and we got a number of things done. The evaluators came, and I'm fast forwarding, visited the site, and we were nominated for inscription. And in Germany, that's where it was voted. Yeah.
Minister, I want to thank you this morning.
No, you so come back with a weak handshake.
Yes. There's so much more for us to talk about, but we went over time this morning, right?
Thank
and
you
I thank the producers for their indulgence.
This is a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing